Welcome back, everyone, to Tapped In TV. I'm here with Andrew Levine. He's the CEO of the Koinos project and the Coinos Blockchain. So I guess without further ado, Andrew, would you like to kind of give an opening statement for yourself, or what you kind of stand for?
Oh, myself. Yeah, sure. So I'm the CEO of Koinos Group. That's the name of the company. And we're building the Coinos blockchain. And the mission behind the Coinos blockchain is to accelerate decentralization through accessibility. So it's really a new blockchain, an entirely new blockchain framework, which is like a template for building blockchains. So we're not just going to launch a mainnet, but we're actually releasing this tool that will make it easier than ever for anyone else to build their own blockchains. We call that the Coinos blockchain framework. And the reason why we take this approach is because our mission is to accelerate decentralization, like I said, through a focus on accessibility. So that's why our blockchain is feeless, and the framework itself is inherently feeless, because we're looking to support an evolving ecosystem of blockchains with no barriers to entry. And so the company, Koinos Group, is a company, a registered Delaware American C Corp, who's dedicated to advancing that ecosystem. And we felt that that was important because when you're building a new product, even if it's a decentralized and open product, people need to have confidence. At the end of the day, one organization is building that product, and we wanted to be accountable to the people in the nation that we were going to be targeting. Yes, Koinos is already global, and we certainly want it to be global. But also Americans, we feel, have really lost out in many ways on the blockchain revolution for various reasons that we could talk about. But we're American. We believe that America is a very important component of the global economy, and American citizens should get to participate. If we want everybody to have access to this technology, then certainly Americans need access to it as well. So that's why we decided to start a company in America and do a proof of work fair launch of the token. Yeah. So these two entities can be fundamentally separate. Every coin token in an Ethereum wallet right now was through mining. We didn't give ourselves a bunch. Mm-hmm. We started this company. The purpose of this company is to make money over the long term by developing valuable tooling and infrastructure for Koinos app developers. And so it's not to liquidate tokens. Anyway, so that's me. I guess I only identify with my company at the moment.
No, that's great. And usually what I like to do is I really go in depth on different projects I find, and it's an ultimate privilege to even be able to have a CEO of something. I see Koinos as a huge project. I mean, I've bounced ideas back and forth between you, some of the other people involved, and I see the trajectory where it's going to go, and a lot of people are just unaware. For you to be, going out of your way to sit down on interviews and calls, it shows a testament to who you are as a leader for the Koinos project.
Well, thank you. But when we talk about accessibility, that really ties back into the accessibility aspect of this project. We mean it at every level. So a lot of projects, or some projects you'll see focusing on accessibility, but it's really accessibility to Solidity developers or C++ engineers. We really think deeply about it every level. The end user, the developer certainly, the engineer certainly, but even ensuring that people have access to the team. Mm-hmm. We think, really at every level, we're like accessibility. I might not want to meet with that person. The developer might not want to take their time from developing Koinos to talk to that outside engineer. But we have to balance the accessibility requirements whenever we make any of these decisions.
Yeah, when you what sparked this idea as a whole? I have a very good understanding and background, knowledge base why you ended up creating Koinos. But not everyone, it's not blatantly put out there, I guess, for everyone to know. What was the inspiration that sparked Koinos? Outside of accessibility to everyone that was just, illustrated, do you feel like there was one thing that you either just, you were playing around with Ethereum and you're like, man, I don't want to build on Ethereum in the future. Like what was that one thing that stuck out to you that really drove you to say, I got to make my own chain and I got to have the full control over it?
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's one of those things. I mean, I can answer that question both like literally and, ironically, like the non-literal answer to the question might actually be the better answer. Like the literal answer to that question is that I'm not building Koinos. There was no one moment for me because this is very much a team effort. Between me and my teammates who all work together on the Steam blockchain, which was a fast and feeless blockchain for social media applications. And we all resigned from that job at the same time. And so when we resigned, we asked ourselves, okay, we now have the opportunity to start from scratch and fix everything that we see as broken in the ecosystem. What would we build? What would be the perfect blockchain to build? And for us, I think accessibility is just deep in our bones. So it was never a question that it would have to be feeless. There were certain requirements that I think were just intrinsic to who we are that we just assumed were requirements for everyone in the group because they were. And so I think, there were two potential outcomes of that thought experiment for us. One is we would see that somebody else had built this product, a blockchain platform capable of spreading globally and giving everybody access to blockchain technology. So, we're obviously very familiar with EOS. We can look at EOS, we can look at Cosmos, obviously Ethereum, and say, is this going to do it? And if so, then we would have built dApps. We would have built a dApp for that blockchain. Yeah. Maybe a social dApp for EOS, for example. But ultimately, when we looked at everything, we were like, we can't build a usable dApp with any of these things for the most part because they were fee-based. So when you look at Ethereum, for us, who had been working on a feeless blockchain for 4 or 5 years and who were used to all the benefits that you get from that, we weren't going to go back and contort our lives around fees. The other issue is that we'd struggled through dozens of hard forks in order to upgrade that protocol. And so we weren't willing to embrace another protocol that would condemn ourselves to a future filled with nightmarish hard forks. And so that's more of the literal explanation. I think that the less, like zooming out, looking back over the last 20 years of my life, 15 years, whatever, and then knowing what I know about my teammates, I think that what it really comes down to is that when we saw Bitcoin, we saw the blockchain. When some people see Bitcoin, they see the money. Investment. They see, right? Yeah. And for me, so prior to Bitcoin, and you asked me this before we started the conversation, what attracted me to technology? I think it was something that came to me a little later. I wasn't in it in high school. But when I started working, and I worked in real estate and interacting with the software that was available to us in real estate and that was employed in the place that I was at, it was unacceptable. And I think that there's a common theme there. What unifies great developers, great engineers, great software producers is not a shared educational path. Oh, they all got their PhD in computer science. Hell no. It's people who gravitate towards software and technology and are very frustrated with the current state. And it's that frustration with the current state that motivates you. And for me, I think early on in my life, it was my frustration at the current state of electric vehicles that motivated me. And I was just so frustrated by that. And so then Tesla emerges, and I'm just going deep into the technology of Tesla. And so I invested very early in Tesla, and continued to work. And then eventually that bet paid off huge. And I found myself, and throughout this, there was a deep organic interest in technology. I'm not going to pretend that there was some specific thing. It is very natural for me to go deep into technology. And what the Tesla incident showed me was that at a certain point, in my opinion, I was probably a leading expert on Tesla's battery technology, because I had just read so much about what they were doing that I knew more than anybody else I could find. But then after that, I found myself saying, well, what's next? What is the next internet? What is the next piece of technology that is going to add orders of magnitude more value to the global economy? And so I was looking for that. And so when Bitcoin came out, and sorry to go around in circles here,
no,
but when Bitcoin came out, there were many reasons it was of deep interest to me. I had graduated law school into 2008, the financial crisis, and so went deep into economics and what went wrong with the financial system. And so obviously, so Bitcoin resonated very deeply with me because I had come to believe that having monetary options was important, and that it was important for us to create money that was independent of the state. And so then Bitcoin did it. Oh my God, that's amazing. How did it do it? The blockchain is how it did it. So now, what I think, to get back to answer the question, what I think really deeply motivates us when we work on Koinos, and this is nothing explicit, this is nothing that we talk about and say this is what motivates us. It's the desire to want to package the blockchain database structure in as infectious a packaging as possible. And so the idea is, one way to look at it is, if the blockchain database structure is the technology, then what you want to be doing, if you want to spread the adoption of that technology, okay, assumption, if that's the technology, and if your objective is to spread it as quickly as possible, which is, I think, our common motivation, then what you want to develop is a pure blockchain that is then designed with the optimal interfaces for developers to pipe into that database, and make their apps fantastic. And so if you compare Koinos to other blockchains, right? So like one of the ways that I like to describe Koinos, because it's insanely accurate, is that it's actually the world's simplest blockchain. It has no features in it. All of its features live in smart contracts. Like Ethereum has smart contracts, but most of the Ethereum logic is in the blockchain. So you've got this big monolithic mess that isn't really just a blockchain. It's a blockchain and this, and staking, and sharding, and all of this other stuff that isn't the blockchain. And that ultimately winds up making, and that's not a criticism of Ethereum. It made sense to build it that way. Yeah. But but Koinos is really a rethinking of the general purpose blockchain. And when you think about that term, right, general purpose blockchain, right, what it should mean is a blockchain database that can be used to do anything, to do as like literally anything. And so Koinos winds up being, or whether it's Koinos made, certainly the Koinos blockchain framework is literally the most general purpose blockchain conceivable, because it only contains the cryptographic primitives required to build a blockchain.
Yeah.
And logic calling into smart contracts is where you can expand the features. But when you look at the blockchain itself, it is pure as it can possibly be. Sorry, that was such a long rambling answer.
No, you're good. You've made very, very good points. And like that one at the end that stuck to me is the concept of creating something pure and kind of, uncorrupted from the start, and mirroring the idea of Bitcoin. The concept of you guys being kind of pioneers, or like a modern day Prometheus or something like that, right? It's very very interesting to think of, because I always see a lot of times that our way of going about creating or pioneering something, we always want it to be done justly or right. If you come from that type of personality or that core, right? But a lot of times once we disperse our ideas or kind of this greatness to the world, it's taken and mangled and corrupted and a bunch of different things has ended up changed, over time. It's impossible, I believe, to create something that's uncorruptible. Which is go ahead.
Yeah, so I think ideas are very fragile, and ultimately they are not especially valuable. And so I think one of the things that distinguishes us as a team and as a project is that building blockchains is what we do. Mm-hmm. It is what we do. Spending time thinking, we think about this when we're not working. Mm-hmm. So we're working 24/7.
Yeah.
And yes, there are these ideas. And yes, I can answer these questions. But at the end of the day, we were moving. We were moving in a direction. We have our values, and we were feeling out where we were going. But we have an intrinsic motivation to build the most accessible blockchain in the world. And I know that sounds way more boring than, we had some great idea. This is not even, I think it's important to note that is not even a conversation that we had. That is my observation, knowing these people as basically my best friends for the last 5 years, and knowing after hours and hours, days, weeks, years of conversations, what is deep in what is deep in our bones. And honestly, I think that frustration point that I made is big. Bold ideas are great. What moves the needle is deep anger and frustration about something. And if you're technical, like our team is, I wouldn't say I'm super technical, but if you're technical like our team is, then those frustrations are deep. Yeah. They're deep in the stack. And so you want to fix the problems that are deep in the stack that are blocking the important technology that you want to see dispersed. And so, we have these ideas and we've been crafting our narrative. But at the end of the day, it is I think what it really comes down to is that this technology is not being adopted. There's so many projects so many projects making such bold claims. But when you're like us and you're capable of looking at what the other projects are doing and actually evaluating their implementations, it doesn't matter how many there are or what they're saying they're going to do. We are capable of saying that's not going to work. And that's what happened to us 2 years ago. We were like, that's not going to work. We're not signing on for that. That's a problem. And everybody else takes the position of, well, they'll make enough money to make it work. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. So
very, very interesting perspective. My brother and I have had conversations multiple times about that. You see a lot of companies now, crazy valuations, and you ask yourself, is their core business model even profitable? And it's one of those things. I asked my brother, I said, you ever like DoorDash or Uber driven before or anything like that? He's like, nah, he works 9 to 5. This is back when I was in college, and he was like, no, I've never done that before. It wasn't a thing when I was back in school. He's way older than I am. So I told him, I was like, I just don't understand how they can pay this amount out and still be profitable. It just doesn't work. But he was like, hey, that's something to look into. So I get your same perspective on, a lot of these companies or these blockchain projects are trying to sell an idea that they think they can force enough dollars behind and it'll just work. People will catch. But I share that same viewpoint. I now try to find common ground with everyday people, trying to explain blockchain technology for them and like how they can utilize it and what benefit would be, because there's so many applications in this life for this technology, but most people they're so unaware of what it can do. And how it can be utilized. I mean, I explain, it's like, if you're so mad about, the government and money and XYZ, all these things that you see, is kind of championed on TV on a regular basis. It's like there's a solution where you can create your own. And like, that's always, if I don't like it, get your own, concept. So.
Yeah. And I went through a similar experience. The problem is that the internet didn't succeed because Jeff Bezos explained it really well, right? He made Amazon.
There you go.
And that was, I think that is another important fundamental aspect of what motivates us, is that I think deep down, and I don't think we talk about this, we talk about work. We talk about what is the next 2 weeks of work going to look like. But if you're explaining to somebody why this thing is so great, if it was really so great, you wouldn't have to explain it. You'd be able to show them.
Exactly.
And I think what was motivating us was the knowledge that where is that app? Where is that app going to come from? What is it going to look like? I don't see it. Yeah. I understand how EOS works. I understand how Steam, how Ethereum, I understand how these work. You're asking me to wait 10 to 20 more years. No, and not if I can do anything about it. I'm not waiting 10 more years for Ethereum to become usable.
I have a question for you. Do you feel like all these things you mentioned being in real estate before, do you feel like you were always being prepared to be this person, to be a CEO? Or do you feel like it was subconscious, or more so you just, the amount of knowledge and the experiences that you had, you fell into this role? And I always ask that because some people are super conscious of, I was like diligently planning my life. And sometimes it's like, I was after a certain goal, but I didn't see all the resources that were going to turn me into who I am. I don't know if that's a tough one, but
it's a great question. My answer is like, yes. It's like it's a crazy question. It's so complicated and interesting.
I say I give you more insight. So like, I guess the perspective is, a lot of people have like, they shy away from the ideas. Like, I was trying to become that guy, and that, like, I have no problems, and I don't take, regardless if other people feel that way, if somebody sets out to be something or do something and they achieve it, like I was just talking about the book earlier, Skin in the Game. If you willfully put yourself in a place to be better, and then you are better, you have room to say, I created this person, I created myself, you know?
Oh yeah, no, there was definitely a lot of intentionality to the creation of myself. That's not even me recommending that, by the way. I think back about it. There was a time working in real estate where being so interested in tech and seeing what had happened with the internet, where I wanted to be a CEO. 100%. I wanted to start up a company. I wanted to run it. I wanted to be that guy. Now, the irony is that being a startup CEO, I'm now like, why the fuck did I want to be a CEO? Why couldn't I just be like a chief marketing officer at some great company? Now, that is true. Sometimes I look at what I have to do. I'm like, this sucks. Being a CEO blows. You really shouldn't want to be it. Starting up a company is super hard. It's all true. Everything they say. It's so hard. Being the CEO is so hard. It's not fun. You don't get to do fun stuff. I love creating content. I love creating narratives. That's fun. At the end of the day, though, I hate if I thought there's no other. I have trouble working for somebody else and following somebody else's vision. So yes, I wanted to be a CEO. I made it happen. There was many intentional things when I first started working at SteamEd. And I got an insight. I remember thinking explicitly, talking to the CEO then. I remember thinking, I don't feel like he wants to be doing this forever. I feel like he's grooming me to be the CEO, and that would be great. I would love to be the CEO of this company. Now, fast forward 5 years later or whatever, and I'm CEO of a company with all of the core developers. It basically happened.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen exactly as I imagined it would. And it was a roller coaster and many nightmarish, awful circumstances, But the other thing I wanted to mention is that some years ago, I found a career assessment test that I took when I was like 12 or something crazy, super young. And now I don't typically believe in things like this, but it did come to a conclusion about the types of occupations and areas of interest that I should pursue that would be like in line with my like interests and skills. And I'd totally forgotten about this because I think at the time it made no sense to me. No sense. Remember, this is before the internet existed or whatever. And it was like the conclusion was, he might want to be a CEO of an engineering company. And I'm like, how? So, I think that there's something here's what I think is the most interesting observation that I can make as somebody who's gone through this crazy process and wound up in this position of CEO of this incredible team, who I cannot order to do anything. I think this is something a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs don't delude themselves into believing that they'll be the CEO and they'll get to tell everybody else what to build. Hell no. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that either. For 4 years at SteamEd, I, more so even than the CEO of SteamEd, I was in the conversations with the developers, with the core developers of the Steam blockchain, hardcore software engineers, and I was trying to understand what they were doing, I was trying to understand why they were making those decisions. And I was trying to help them understand the needs of users and developers so that they could make better decisions. And so it was 4 years of us truly working together to try to build the best product that we could that cemented our relationship. And so when we started our new company, it was a group decision that I be CEO, probably in large part due to the fact that they trusted me and I couldn't code. So I couldn't help. I couldn't help in any other way. So that's why I'm CEO. It's not because I'm so smart and I have all this money and I put it in. It's that I was able to build the trust with this team where they knew that they could count on me to help fill in those gaps, those skill gaps that they knew they didn't have. They wanted to build something that developers would love using, that users would love using. And they saw how I could help them do that. And I saw how I could help them do their jobs better. And so, I think the reason why I want to go into all of that is because I really want to spread the message to aspiring entrepreneurs that it's not about, I have this idea that is so good that it is going to motivate the world to build this product for me. It's about, and I talked about this in that video, and so I might be repeating myself, but it's really about building this team, building a really great team, and a really great team outputs a great product, and not being too married to an idea or a vision of your product that you won't let the team output the best product it's capable of putting out. That's why I say, and I believe that Koinos is a much better blockchain than I would have designed personally. It is more what I wanted to build than what I wanted to build. And that's why people love it so much. And that's why people love it. And then they come, and then I think they might be tempted to look at me and think, wow, this guy is so smart. He built this amazing thing. That couldn't be farther from the truth. It's a team effort, and we all have different parts that we own. And it was by resolving our disagreements and finding solutions that met all of our needs that it led to Koinos.
So you think that, or I guess correct me if I'm wrong, you feel like building out your team or building out a team, kind of the core value system of what these people share, who you're selecting, aside from their technical skills in a sense of like building a blockchain or things along those lines, are more important than what you guys are even building, than the idea itself.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of my, if not my biggest talent, if I can pat myself on the back, is my open-mindedness. And I think that this is critical for an entrepreneur, actually. I think, and perhaps it's a specific type of open-mindedness, but by that specifically, I mean openness to the idea that what you think is the right solution isn't, and it's extreme. I mean, there'll be days when I'll be like, this is the most important problem that we need to solve for Koinos. Like, this is a huge deal. This is and I'll come in and I'll say it, and they'll be like, I'd love to say that there was ever a time when they were like, yes, we agree. No. I'll put it out there. Either they'll say, yes, but it's not the right time, slightly different implementation, whatever. And but I will take that firmly held belief and I will pivot immediately. I will say, you know what? I'm open. You're right. That's a good point. Let me rethink this. And so I don't know if that seems exactly on topic, but the point, but I guess what it comes down to is that when you have a team of people with shared values, you understand, and you are open-minded like that, then you can move really quickly. Because what matters is that you're all trying to solve the same problem. And that's why, like in one of my other videos, I talk about finding your mission. And that's what I think we were doing through this process. Like, we didn't come out and say that was our mission from the beginning. That mission emerged from the decisions and the arguments and the struggles that we had day in and day out, and realizing what's the commonality? What's the thing that unites all of us? And like, yes, you need to have the technical skills required to do something. It has to be possible to work with you. But I would absolutely say that if you want to start a company, I guess if you want to be an entrepreneur, then the most critical first step is to find like-minded individuals with skills that are not the same skills that you have. And then you see where it goes. And then you have to be open-minded to following it, following the organic direction. It could have been possible for us to build something other than a layer 0 with the goal of building a layer 1. Actually, we never set out to build a layer 1. And we never set out to build a layer 0, as in a framework for building blockchains. So in a sense, did we fail? Am I horribly disappointed in the way that things went? Because my vision, we were going to build a social blockchain that was so much better than the previous social blockchain. No, of course not. I look at what we're building, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that we've built what we've built so far, and that we are set up to successfully build what is next on our roadmap and keep going from there. Oh my God, how amazing. And I think that the reason for that is understanding that organizations are complex systems. And and this ties into Nassim Taleb's work and Skin in the Game. But a truly anti-fragile organization is evolving. It's a complex adaptive system. And the outputs of a complex adaptive system are inherently unpredictable. So if you want to get into this game, you got to start embracing that unpredictability, that chaos. And I've always thrived in chaos, I guess. It's super stressful. It's not like fun or anything, but I seem to be able to keep my head on straight when shit's hitting the fan. And that happened at Steemit, where every time shit would hit the fan, there'd be resignations, there'd be firings. I'd somehow wind up with a promotion, because I'd stay in the pocket and I'd keep punching. And, I think that that's a critical skill for an entrepreneur. But all right, I'm sorry, I got to run. This has been a great conversation.
Hey, man, I understand. I appreciate it. Thank you for spending some time with us. I appreciate just the full description of, Koinos, and hopefully we'll get another call in. You can elaborate a little bit more on some of the other things that's upcoming. But until next time, I appreciate it, Andrew.
Yeah, let's talk again soon. Thanks for the call.